I'm Ari Goldberg, and today I'm going flying. We chose to come to Brooklyn College today because for this month's For the Record, we wanted to be at the home of one of CUNY's most famous authors.
Barnyardy, little goatee, but nothing crazy. It's a younger cheese.
You had me at barnyardy.
Daddy. I have to say that it almost feels like my own grandparents' house here, and I'm afraid to touch anything. I'm going to break something.
Oh. No, everything that could be broken has been broken.
That's right, Morty.
Along with a fantastic new list of CUNY stories for you, we also have a fantastic new co-host. There are a lot of ways to learn about physics. This is probably the best one. From the buzzing beehives here at Macaulay Honors College, I'm Ari Goldberg for Urban U. From the stage combat course here at the Barrel Group with Ron Peretti, I'm Ari Goldberg for Arts in the City. He actually did hit me there.
Sorry, are you
That's,
okay?
I'm okay. Crime dramas in New York, like Law & Order, have been city institutions for decades now. But ripped from the headlines doesn't always show the whole story of New York crime scene investigation. Because behind the police procedurals are the forensics you don't see, like the ones who study insects at crime scenes.
One of the reasons why I got into this field is being able to kind of be the bug whisperer. There's not a lot of people that understand and can interpret what the insects tell you in an investigation because they do tell a story, and a lot of times they're overlooked. You know, people lie. The bugs don't really lie.
This bug whisperer is Jennifer Rosati, assistant professor at John Jay College and forensic entomologist. Entomology is the study of insects. Forensic entomology is studying insects for criminal investigation, and it's not a job for everybody.
Do I take the work home? Absolutely. There's been many times where I've taken the work home with me. I have traveled on the subway with maggots in my pockets. Yes, I have. And for the most part, working in the city is great because people mind their own business. They really do. I mean, they might go, oh, something smells over here, but then that's it. And trust me, there's been worse smells on the subway than anything that I bring into it.
When I hear forensics, and I think a lot of people hear forensics, they're thinking Law & Order and CSI. Is that what this is really about?
So forensic entomology is primarily used in homicide investigations, but that's not the only use for it. Insects can be very helpful when you're looking at the agricultural industry. There's a lot of insects that can infest those grains. So the source of that contamination and finding where that contamination occurred. And then with respect to urban entomology, a lot of times you're dealing with pest species. So you can deal with termites and their feeding activity that can potentially disrupt the structure of a house or of a building. All of that would fall underneath forensic entomology as well.
But the bread and butter is indeed homicide investigation. It may seem a little morbid, but you can figure out when a body died based on understanding the life cycle of the insects that have grown on it. Specifically, the life cycle of the blowfly.
Well, believe it or not, you encounter blowflies all the time. When you're walking your dog in the summer and it decides to take a you-know-what, chances are if you stay around in that area for a few minutes, you're gonna see blowflies. And they lay eggs on a dead, decomposing resource. They can lay eggs within minutes of death. And so by looking back at their developmental cycles and the temperature at which the crime occurred, you can work back to try and figure out when those eggs were laid. And in ideal situations, and in most situations, that time that egg was laid corresponds very tightly to the time of death. A lot of times we take a live sample and we bring it back to the lab and re-rear it. And what that means is that we want to continue its development so that we have an adult emerge out so we can determine what species we're dealing with.
Unlike the investigations on TV, according to Rosati, it can take weeks or even months to identify an insect, rearing the eggs in the lab until they hatch and grow. And one thing they don't show you on TV is that in order to understand the bugs at a crime scene, it means always keeping a lot of bugs on hand to study in the lab. Like a lot of bugs.
So a typical day in the lab is actually doing research. For me, it's either teaching or it's supervising students, checking in on their research. rearing flies, meaning we've got colonies that need to be taken care of, so we need to make sure the adults are fed, the larvae are fed, they're happy. I always tell my students a happy maggot means that you've got a happy supervisor.
To be sure, day to day it is indeed more research than it is law and order. Rosati assists on about 2 to 3 cases per year at this point in her career, so it's not all morbid. And Rosati keeps it all in perspective.
The person at home that's watching and thinking, oh my God, I'd never be able to do this, and I would say this job isn't for everybody. But to me, insects are beautiful. You put them underneath a microscope, you see the shine to them, especially the blowflies, and also there's an important aspect to it. Somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to play with maggots, somebody's got to play with dead bodies and pick the bugs off the dead bodies, and that just so happens to be me. So it isn't for everybody, but I enjoy it.
If you think of Las Vegas as the wedding chapel capital, think again. We've got our own hotspot for tying the knot right here in Manhattan. And Ari Goldberg takes the plunge.
Of all the romantic spots in NYC, for a lot of New Yorkers, the place to get married isn't some grand ballroom or reception hall, but right downtown at City Hall.
We're both lifelong New Yorkers, born and raised here. We've probably been to more weddings than anyone cares to remember. They've all been beautiful, they've all been fantastic. But there's something that is really refreshing in the simplicity of being married at City Hall.
It's also funny, like they have the kiosks outside of City Hall that sell flowers, so you can buy your bouquet on the way. I mean, you could really be like in a New York Minute on the run, getting married. There's also a side hustle business that people offering for money for them to be your witnesses. So like if you come without someone who can sign that, yes, you're indeed allowed to be married.
I mean, I dressed up in a tie for you guys today. This is, I'm
You
trying to
could be
sense
our
some
witness.
hints here.
It's very entrepreneurial, yeah.
Meet Ashley Brennan and Alec Kleinschmidt, who, soon after I interviewed them, were getting married at City Hall. Getting married at City Hall is like going to the DMV. In fact, its current building actually used to be the DMV. And if there's one city that could squeeze charm and romance out of a DMV experience, it's New York. Since 1930, well over 1 million couples have tied the knot here at the Manhattan Marriage Bureau.
And when we were there, we noticed that it's a really good metaphor for what New York is. It's people from all over the world, all over the United States. People are there for one reason and one reason only, and it's to really go through this one New York institution that says, this is the first day of the rest of our lives together, and we're doing it here in New York in the Big Apple.
In 2009, the New York City Marriage Bureau got a major facelift when it moved from the Manhattan Municipal Building to 141 Worth Street, renovated and upgraded just for weddings. But Ashley and Alec almost didn't get this opportunity to use it. Friends since high school, but never romantic, they never could quite seem to get the timing right for over 2 decades. And eventually, they didn't even have each other's contact information anymore. It took a very modern approach to reconnect years later.
I stalked him on LinkedIn, and that's how I messaged him. We hadn't spoken in 5 years, and I reached out. And I think my question was, are you still alive? And
And you are.
he is. And
I believe my response was sort of. But that's a lesson for everybody that LinkedIn is the new 21st century dating app.
LinkedIn, Tinder. But
That's right,
Yes.
yeah.
Top.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like you've got Hinge and Bumble, but they really don't work as well as LinkedIn.
I think the ceremony itself takes all of 90 seconds.
Well, the New York Minute, they're giving you 90
seconds.
seconds.
Yeah, that's right.
This
That's
is
like-
very romantic.
It's way too much time.
And now, 22 years and 90 seconds after they met, they're now wed at City Hall. The same place as the likes of Justin Bieber and Matt Damon, as well as construction workers and taxi drivers. As much a melting pot as the city itself.
It's one of the greatest places in the greatest city in the world. I mean, it's the epicenter of commerce, it's the epicenter of culture.
And love.
And love. And love.
All 90 seconds.
All 90 seconds of love. That's being generous. We can edit that part out.
I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride.